Hello, coin droppers, and welcome back to the Coin Drop Podcast, episode number 79. And joining me, as always, Tim. How's your week been, man? You sound like you're getting pretty tired. It's been a long day from the sounds of it.
As usual, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, as always.
Yeah. On the rig, constantly. I don't know,
Yeah.
so...
More often than not.
Yeah, there we go. More often than not. I like that one.
There you go. Yeah. It's been a day in the sense of I'm building a 30-foot custom bench for somebody. And therefore, I've been up and down on my knees all freaking day. So I'm freaking tired. I'm all sorts of tired.
You feeling it? Them old man knees.
Right. But I'm here and trying. I'm trying.
You got yourself some knee pads? Some good knee pads?
I don't have knee pads.
You need to invest in some knee pads, my dude.
I'm not hurting in there. It's really my back that hurts. Just because I've been leaned over all day. That's really about it.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. My knees ache, especially if I'm working on like a concrete floor, up and down cuts. When I was working on the bathroom, like knee pads, super helpful, at least in my opinion.
Gotcha. I have considered it. I will give you that.
They're worth it. And a decent pair aren't terribly expensive. Pick them up at the depot, pretty reasonably priced. Let's see, what did I do today? Did a dump run, which is always fantastic. Love a good dump run. Just throwing shit out, getting shit out of there. Just cleaned up the garage, got rid of a bunch of stuff from, cardboard boxes and just shit that needed to get out of the house. Went to a school fundraiser fair thing for the daughter. That was pretty cool. Just kind of went and she got like a new doll from this lady who hand makes dolls. So pretty cool. Has that, and that was pretty much my day. Played some Mario Party Jamboree with the wife. Did that. I like Jamboree. I think it's really good. I have some complaints, but they're nothing huge. You have to unlock 3 of the 7 stages by just like playing the game. You get it, I guess. That's what I've read. So sense. Yeah, it just kind of. I also I haven't done the online multiplayer 20-player game or whatever the fuck it is because I don't pay for Switch Online or whatever. But it's Mario Party. It's more Mario Party than like the earlier Mario Parties, like 7, 8. And 9, which were just complete garbage Mario Party games. So it's in line with what Mario Party's good at. It's fun. It's enjoyable. The daughter likes it occasionally, but the wife always gets mad at me because I'm winning the majority of the game, and then she gets 1 extra bonus star at the end and ends up winning. And I'm like, winning mini games means nothing anymore. I remember in the old days of Mario Party, man, those games were brutal back in the day. She's we tied on one, and she's like, oh, does that mean we split the earnings? I was like, no, that means everybody gets it. And she's like, oh, well, we all won. And I was like, yeah, and technically we all lost. And she kind of gives me this look. I was like, in the old Mario Party games, it said draw and nobody got anything. You won or you lost. They were brutal games. People lost friends over those games.
That's how it fucking should be. You should lose, and you should have winners and losers, not winners and fucking participation trophy earners. That's bullshit. I fucking hate that stuff.
It was more just, it's a tie, so everybody gets something. I kind of agree. Kind of disagree. It doesn't matter. Let's jump into games. I know we were just talking about games, but let's jump into games. Last week, we talked about a lot of leaks on NVIDIA's upcoming 5090, right? We talked about that. If anybody listened, they heard the incredibly expensive price tag that is not confirmed, but has been rumored and leaked multiple times to be roughly in the neighborhood of $2,000. Well, we've got some rumors from the red side now, Team Red over at AMD. There is some interesting potential. And again, I go back to this statement of if you don't care about DLSS, maybe...
Or DLAA or frame gen.
Yeah, maybe... Well, frame gen is on AMD too, just not the way that DLSS or DLAA does it. But that's besides the point. If you really don't care about those things, maybe consider an AMD card. So their upcoming next-gen series, AMD's next-gen series, potentially called the 8800 XT, which is what they're talking about here.
To be called the 8800 XT.
88. It's either going to be 8800 or 8900, right? Because it'll be the next series up. So whatever. AMD has said that they cannot and will not compete with NVIDIA. They're not competing at that level. They're still making good cards, just not at the level of NVIDIA, right? So if you're going
basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to be as good as NVIDIA, but they're basically saying we're not going to be them, but we're going to chase them, and therefore we're comparable cards.
Yeah,
it's kind of their way of saying don't compare us, but go ahead and buy us because we're close.
Right. Yeah. Their whole model the last 2 generations has been like, well, we're a good runner-up, right?
Yeah.
And their price point really shines through on that. So the next generation of chips, they're saying are going to run RDNA 4, which is kind of their, I don't know what you would call it for the equivalent on NVIDIA, but basically it's their bread and butter. Their RDNA is like their chipset style, whatever you want to call it.
RDNA is what everyone talks about when they talk about consoles. It's got the new best technology.
Yeah, that's because AMD makes the console tech too. Yeah.
Yes.
So the rumors are stating that the new upcoming chip is going to be 45% faster in ray tracing than the 7900 XTX. Keep in mind, I have the 7900 XT, and I have full ray tracing on and all that good stuff in Stalker 2 and don't have any issues. So they're saying 45% faster than the 7900 XTX, which is the next step up, which puts it on par on paper with an RTX 4080 Super. That's pretty damn impressive when you consider that AMD's whole, like, where they shine is undercutting NVIDIA. Like, they come in just low enough that they're, like we talked about, dude, if you can't buy that top of the line NVIDIA, if you don't have ungodly amounts of money, AMD might be the better way, because you're going power to dollar spent ratio. AMD, in my opinion, if you can't get a 80 series or a 90 series from NVIDIA, AMD is the better way to go. That's my personal opinion. They're also like the rumor right now, and I'm going to put this out here, I don't believe this rumor to be true at all, but the rumor out there right now is that this card is going to be $450. Now, I have no expectation that that's the reality. There's no fucking way.
8,900?
Yes. Would be $450.
Bullshit.
Yeah, no, I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that at all.
Unless they just feel like being the nice guys here. Which is obviously, that's just not how it works. When a business, you gotta, you gotta support your investors and all that fun stuff. You have to make sure they make money too. No.
450, no, that's way too low. However,
if they drop the 8900 XT to that price the 7900 XT, if they drop the 7900 to that price when the 8900 XT come out, maybe I can see that possibly, even though probably not.
I think the $600-$700 ratio, even $800 is more than reasonable for this card, because you're seeing a 45% increase in power over the last gen, and that's still $1,200 cheaper than NVIDIA's next card. That being said,
NVIDIA's 59.
Right. That will be their next card, but yes, their 5090 card.
5090.
That being said, this wouldn't be the first time NVIDIA undercuts AMD in a massive way. So back in 2008, AMD rolled out the HD 4870, which offered 80% the performance of NVIDIA's top-end GPU for barely more than half the price of the card. So if we put that in perspective, if, let's say, the 8800 is able to perform 80% of NVIDIA's 5090, I don't think that's the case, just to be clear. If they're talking just barely over half the price, that's still $1,000.
So, like, my thought during all this is, yes, they're not necessarily comparable. They're clearly not as good, but they are still extremely good.
Yes.
And they're totally worth it if you don't want to spend, like you've mentioned, ungodly amounts of money. But my real question is how much of the market are they getting by undercutting their competition by such a massive margin? A couple of years in a row. Are they at least like not breaking ground, but like gaining ground? Or are people just going, I like DLSS?
I think I honestly don't know, but I would like to think that enough people are that are in this world, that are in the GPU world, that are buying these parts and educating themselves on what they are, how they work, and the price point. Because this is an expensive piece of tech. People buy cars for less than these things at this point. I mean, it's not going to go very far, but like you can get a car for less than these things.
I might get from point A to point B, but not back to point A again. But I'll get to point A to point B.
That, sir, is what we call a trial car. It gets you from where you're at to where you're going, and then you take an Uber home and you just let that thing sit.
I'm gonna be honest with you here. I am kind of like I want the DLSS. I've seen what it does, and I've seen the difference in what it doesn't do. Meaning, like, let's say the AMD cards or consoles and what they do as far as comparisons go. And it's not necessarily that I think that they're worse in the sense of like, oh, that looks like shit. Like, I don't think it looks bad in any way. I see the benefit that it could provide me as a quote lower end user, not necessarily lower end, more like mid end user. I can see the benefit that it would provide me to get me closer to what I would feel like a top end user because of the AI tech, I guess.
Yeah,
and therefore I want that.
I mean, I guess I don't need to say it again. NVIDIA doesn't interest me at this point. What they had for me at the time was ray tracing, and AMD is working hard, especially with this card. They're trying to close that gap in ray tracing rasterization, right? I
mean, it's just not proprietary anymore.
No, it's not.
It's something that's just an industry standard at this point. It's just a matter of how well you can do it.
So to go back to AMD's current market share, a quick Google search says that as of most recent data, this is dated relatively recently. I can't get an exact date. Let me see here. This is from, I don't want the AI. This is from Tom's Hardware. The company now commands 28.7% of the market, up a whopping 9.6 pp compared to the same quarter a year ago. And this is dated 2024. So this is...
They are gaining ground.
They are gaining ground. They are absolutely gaining ground. 9.6 is a big jump over the course of a year. So if they undercut... Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's kind of crazy. Almost a 10% jump in 12 months.
Yes.
You think NVIDIA would go, maybe our price is a little expensive. But then again, at the same time, they also own 70% of the market. Or maybe not 70%. There's Intel in there as well.
Sure.
But like they have the vast majority of the market. So maybe they're not worried. At least not yet. I don't know.
Yeah. The reality is, again, AMD has constantly said they're not going to compete with NVIDIA at that level. So I don't think NVIDIA cares. But at the same time, if they continue to gain ground, right? If they continue to get, next year they get another 9 points, right? Next year they get another 9 points. Like if they continue to gain ground on NVIDIA will have no choice but to acknowledge them and... Like, you need to save your side of the company, guys. Like, you need to save your shares, right? So, like, you got to start being a little bit more competitive. It almost makes me think, like, AMD is like, no, we're not going to play baseball with you. We're going to take our baseball and go play over here. And now NVIDIA is getting to a point where they're like, fuck, I guess we'll play in your field then. Like, that's almost what it feels like, where NVIDIA is just going like, well, we're not going to play your game. We're going to play our game and drag you down to force you to compete with us. By like undercutting and I don't know, it's just a thought. Like it almost feels like NVIDIA is just like being forced to like, or will be forced, I suppose, to kind of look back at AMD and go, fuck, they're doing really good, and I'm not sure. Do we do something about this? Should we just continue to play our own game? Like,
I mean, at this rate, really the only thing they could manage to do is continue to take ground from NVIDIA, and NVIDIA will have to take notice and therefore do something about it.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Which really the only thing they could do is just release them at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
At this rate, honestly, like, the technology increase has been nice, from card to card, from, say the 10 series, the 20 series, the 30, etc. They've been nice. But I feel like the price increase has, like, gotten stupid.
Oh yeah, it's insanely stupid. I mean, I think,
but like, it's stupid in the sense of like they're just like, hey, you were paying us $1,000 for the same thing you were getting last year. How about you give us $1,500 this year for the same thing? And then the next year they're like, how about you give us $2,000 for what you were paying for $1,000? Kind of like the normal American economy right about now.
Yeah.
And so AMD is just like. So there's this is a weird story that's relevant, kind of, maybe. There's a restaurant that's near my house, and it's price-wise, it's Denny's.
Okay.
But quality-wise, I'm telling you, it's a 5-star restaurant. The place looks fucking nice. The waiters are dressed nice. They treat you well. They give you like amazing tasting food.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, this place is a 5-star restaurant, but for some reason, it's at Denny's prices. However, they're literally busy nonstop all week long. There is no time where you can just walk in and sit down.
Yeah, it's a reservation kind of thing.
Because they're that busy. And so they figured it out. Just lower the fucking prices.
Well, so that's
all you got to do.
There's a sweet spot, right? That's the thing, and that business has hit that sweet spot of where is it cost effective to drop our prices enough that we're continuously busy all day, every day. We have a restaurant like that out here. There's a place over in Coeur d'Alene called Izzy's, and we fucking love their place because it's named Izzy's after the lead chef's daughter who passed away because she was undiagnosed celiac and died. So her entire kitchen is 100% celiac safe. It's one of our favorite restaurants to go to because of that. The whole place. Yeah. And if you cannot, you have to call days in advance to get a reservation for that place because it is slammed all the time. Their prices are incredibly reasonable. I wouldn't say they're cheap, but they're incredibly reasonable, and the food is fucking fantastic. So like it's that perfect middle ground of we've hit the right amount of cost for operations to be able to make a small profit, and then because our prices are so reasonable, we're doing so much volume that profit is higher than it would be, if we increase those prices and had less volume, right? So it's that balancing act. So getting back to GPUs though,
it feels like AMD is doing that.
It does. It really does. Getting back to the inflation of these cards and what I meant last week when I said it didn't used to be this way. Give me a guess without looking it up. Give me a guess how much you think a NVIDIA GTX 1080 sold for when it released. How much do you think that card cost when it released? This was their top of the line. The 90 series is relatively new. That didn't start until the 20 series, the 90 portion of the card. So 1080 used to be top of the line. 90 is relatively new. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Either way.
1080 top of the line. That was what, like 5-6 years ago?
That was in 20. Fuck, I don't remember when that came out. 2016 was when that was announced.
Fuck me, that was almost 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So the 1080 series, I'm gonna take a stab, and say 800.
You are way high.
Really? Wow.
It released, dude. It released. I'm literally gonna make you want to kill yourself right now. It released for $599.
God, $600
in 6 years
for the best card.
For the for their top of the line like Founders Edition. This is the shit. It was $599. Their next card is $2,000, a $1,500 difference over 6 years. It's unacceptable. Like if AMD, like this is why I think AMD is the better route to go. One, their head's not so far up their ass that they're charging exorbitant prices. And granted, the next generation NVIDIA card is going to have GDDR7 RAM, which is incredibly expensive. It's incredibly cutting edge. I get it, but god damn it, dude! Like it almost. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if AMD's 8800 XT costs less than what I paid for my 7900 XT. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it'll be a substantial difference, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go, you know what, this card, $699.
Well, you paid something like $800 or $900 for the XT, right?
I paid $799 for the XT. So 800.
800 is what I thought. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can see them releasing at the same price.
Yeah.
Which still, the fact of a couple of years difference, same price.
1 year difference. 1 year.
Okay. Well, I mean, either way, 1 year difference. Given the market and everything else has been going up. They're keeping steady and they're not gouging their fans.
Yeah. And they're increasing, like, even if they raised that card cost by $100 over last year, price per power ratio, if it is performing 45% more power than the last generation of cards, that is an incredibly reasonable ask. $100 for 45% better performance. That's insane. We talked about
Yeah,
with the PlayStation Pro, where was it 20% better? The PlayStation 5 Pro? 40%. But again, and that's $100 difference. Or was it 100 or 200?
200.
So even that is relatively like, okay, yeah, $200 for 40% better speeds or anything. 40% increase is substantial. So I don't know. I don't know what AMD is actually going to launch this at, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is within the $699 range to the $799 range. Like that seems pretty on par.
Awesome if it was cheaper, but I feel like that's a bit I don't know, dreamland. Them dropping the price of their new cards, their new top of the line cards, seems a bit much. But I mean that'd be an awesome thing for them to do as far as the consumer side goes. It would also force Nvidia to drop their prices. Like they'd have no choice at this point.
No, they have so much GDP, dude. They wouldn't. Again, until AMD commands a much larger margin of the market, Nvidia is still going to be like, yeah, whatever.
Bro, 30% isn't nothing.
I know it's not.
It's a lot, actually.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Because if they drop the prices of their top of the line cards compared to last year's cards, that's not nothing. That's huge, actually. Basically saying, hey, you can buy our new tech, which is better than our last tech, and it's cheaper than our last tech.
So
that's almost unprecedented. It's not unprecedented, but like it's still something that rarely ever happens.
So the XT right now, the 7900 XT, the one that I have, you can buy an Asus or AS Rock version of it right now on sale for $699. It's usually $769. They have dropped in price since I bought them, but like the reference card, like everybody's still price gouging on GPUs, and it's the most insane thing I've ever seen. I mean,
you gotta look at crypto. What can you do about it?
Crypto is basically bankrupt at this point. Like it costs more to mine than it does to make right now, unless something's changed recently.
The standard. What's the big coin right now?
I don't fucking know. I don't pay attention to it anymore.
The biggest coin, Bitcoin. The fucking name of the thing.
Yeah.
Bitcoin just passed like $10,000.
Oh, did it start coming up again?
Like it's higher than it's ever been.
Oh, I guess I need to start mining again.
You're right.
I
wish I had done that a long time ago. But anyways, that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, Bitcoins is the reason why the majority of people are scalping cards.
Yeah, you know? I mean that's why there was a great GPU shortage for forever. Mm-hmm. So right now, the 7900 XTX from Nvidia themselves is the only card they have available right now. Everything else is sold out. Is $1,000. That's their XTX. That is their top of the line. The 7900 XT, my card, was $899, is now $749, but it's out of stock. So like, I feel like AMD is probably not going to break that $1,000 price tag on their next card because they haven't yet. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
It's a matter of just wait and see at this point. Really, ultimately,
yeah.
They're setting or feeling like they're setting a good precedence. Just the fact that last year's cards were so much cheaper than last year's AMD cards were so much cheaper than last year's Nvidia cards.
Yeah,
and it feels like they're going to do that this year, but potentially even make it a bigger difference.
I mean, that's all Nvidia's doing, really. Like if
not
AMD,
necessarily. I mean, you're saying that it's possible that AMD is dropping the price of their cards. You feel like they might.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Is more what I'm saying. Yeah.
But like you're right, that's mostly on Nvidia. If the $2,000 price tag is accurate, but like even still, basically AMD is like it honestly kind of feels like the whole Xbox One versus the PlayStation 4. When the Xbox One announced the price of $500, PlayStation was like, "Fuck yeah, ours is only $400." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the whole this is how you trade your games.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah. A lot of just like stabs at them, little jabs.
Exactly.
Here and there. Yeah.
It kind of feels like that all over again, just in the GPU, field, and like it's good for the market. This is why competition matters.
Yep.
And I'm glad that there's that exists, really, ultimately.
And the wild thing is AMD is like, again, that they're not competing with Nvidia. They've openly said they're not, and yet they're still competing with Nvidia just because it's hard to ignore the underdog who is putting out really good hardware. And sure, it might be a generation behind in terms of capabilities. Like, sure, my 7900 is more compatible to a 3000 series than it is a 4000 series, but ultimately it's still a fantastic card for the price I paid for it. So I don't know.
I mean, it's one of those things. They say they're not competing, and they can say that.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really up to them whether they're competing. It's up to the consumer, right? Like, the consumer is kind of who drives whether or not you're actually competing. So I don't know.
But, I mean, it could eventually, or it could. It's a philosophy thing, and if they actually stand by that philosophy, then they can, provide a good card, even if it's cheaper or not as good.
Yeah,
they're providing something that's good for their consumer base, and they're not worried about being as good as, the top of the line. And ultimately, that benefits the user base.
Honestly, I want to say this last thing, and then I want to move on. But I honestly just thought of something. I think the reason AMD is setting their prices so reasonably is because they're not putting AI in their chips. That process probably is a lot more costly, which is why NVIDIA has to theoretically charge more, is because the cost is higher. I would like to think that's still how things work, but most corporations are just greedy and set price tags on a whim. But I wonder if that plays a role in it at all. Is AMD is like, well, we don't have these added expenses because we're not doing, AI in our chips. So let's pass those savings on. Right.
They're not developing AI.
Right.
I mean, adding AI to your stuff is going to ultimately make it cheaper. Hence the reason why the whole conversation of that has been happening.
Yeah.
But they're developing it. They're making, the cutting edge AI, and therefore,
right,
that costs a lot of money.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a part of it. But we'll see more at CES next month. And AMD will, I don't know if they're announcing their card at that time or not. They typically run like a year later than AMD or than NVIDIA. So we might see them 2026 announce the 8800, but we could see them at the same time. But speaking of seeing new things, Eternal Strands has some new information for us. We talked about this game a long time ago when it was debuted at...
Year.
Was it last year? I thought it was this year.
August. Was it August of last year?
Was it really a year ago? Good Lord. I could have swore it was Summer Game Show this year. Okay. Yeah. Well, quite a while ago then. So when this game debuted, I was immediately interested in it. I loved the art style. I loved the combat. I didn't realize that this was being developed by ex-Dragon Age devs. So that was news to me. I'm like, oh, that explains why the game, thematically looks so good. It has a very cool vibe to it that feels very early Dragon Age. Kind of dig it, as well as has some other great features that look like they're going to be really cool. Well, there's some new information that they confirmed a partnership with Nakao. How do you say that name? Nakao? Nakay? The guy from...
I'm not seeing it in front of me at the moment, so...
Oh, okay. Naoki Yoshida.
Oh, Naoki.
There you
Naoki
go.
Yoshida.
I'm white. Naoki Yoshida from the Final Fantasy team that worked on Final Fantasy 14 and 16. So
yes,
they're tapping a lot of great talent for this game, and it really makes me even more interested in it.
Honestly, all you have to do is say Naoki Yoshida, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm on it. That's hot. That's it.
I only know Yoshi P, dude. I don't even know what his real name is. I just know Yoshi P. So
Naoki Yoshida is his name. So that's Yoshi P.
Okay.
That is the
all
Yoshi
right.
P.
Right. Well, there you go. So, okay, that explains a lot. Look, even stupider.
Which... It's interesting though, because he works for Square Enix, so this is some side project for him or something. And Square Enix, obviously, I would imagine Square Enix is technically have to give them their blessing, because he works for Square Enix, and this isn't a Square Enix title, unless it is, and we just don't know it yet, or at least published, anyways.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
But it's an interesting thought. And just a short correction here, I was conflating the original announcement for this game with a different title. This was announced in April.
Okay, I thought it was this summer. I was like, I could have swore. All right, Eternal Shards. Or Strands. Why do I keep saying Strands? So it's Yellow Brick Games is the publisher of this one. It's their first title. They're a relatively new studio. Obviously, that's you raise an interesting point about Yoshi P. That kind of makes me wonder, because they're based out of Japan, right? Like they're not an American company.
Yeah, Square Enix.
Because I know in America we had our our non-compete kind of thing. Does he run Creative Studio 3? Is that like his? Is he like the CEO of that team, or how does that work?
No, no, I don't think so. I mean, he's the creative director for Final Fantasy 14, and he was like effectively an assistant on Final Fantasy 16. He wasn't like the creative director. There was someone else that was ultimately in charge, and he was just helping out. I mean, don't get me wrong, he had a big part in 16, but.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, actually, I think they gave him some sort of like leadership position within Square Enix. Like he was like on the board or something like that, and he was like, "I don't want that," and they're like, "Well, fucking too bad, take it." And because he was like, "I just want to make games. Let me make games, damn it."
Yeah.
And anyways, the fact that he's helping with Eternal Strands, like that's a strange situation, because again, he works for Square Enix, and this doesn't appear to be any sort of Square Enix published title in any way, shape, or form, unless it's Square Enix. Published in Japan, maybe that could be possibly the case. I mean, so I literally typed in Naoki Yoshida in Google, and it says that he's a video game producer, director, and designer working for Square Enix. He's best known for his work on Final Fantasy 14, as well as Final Fantasy 16. And there is an article in reference to Eternal Strands, but like. As far as how that works, I mean, hell, there's even an article a year ago when he was put on the board of directors. That was the role he was given a couple of years ago because of 14. Like he basically saved Square Enix with 14. In any case, he was given a position or rather directed to be on the board of directors for Square Enix, and he actually tried to quit, and they wouldn't let him. So, like the fact that he can be even on the board of directors and still work on something not Square Enix related. Like maybe it's a small role.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering. So the article I'm reading here says that it's intentionally left vague, probably for good reason, but it harkens back to Castlevania Lords of Shadow, right? Because God damn it, Kojima was on the team for that game, which really shows through at the end of that game with an incredibly long cutscene. Yes, but like it. I don't know that they ever clarified how much involvement he had in it. So a lot of this, a more recent title. Go ahead.
I was just going to say a fun fact about how Kojima got in that Castlevania game. You know how he did that?
Huh. Did he just say, "Hey, I like Castlevania and I want to be on this team"?
He was basically walking by the development studio and was like, "I like this. Can I work on it?" And they're like, "Yes, yes, please, yes."
That's awesome.
More or less.
That's very cool. That's very Hideo Kojima. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it's intentionally left vague. Calling out to like another game where this is, a matchup that raises questions. A little bit less was George R. R. Martin's involvement with Elden Ring, right? Like how much did he actually contribute to Elden Ring? Did he write the lore of the world?
Actually, we know the answer to that.
So what's the answer?
Basically, From Software said, "Hey, can you write us a lore for this?"
Okay.
And he wrote them like a whole story, a lore, a world, all that fun stuff. And then he's just said, "Take it and do what you want with it."
So
and From Software basically did what they wanted with it. They changed this or that, and they edited it, etc. But like after he gave them what he wrote, they did whatever they felt like with it.
Sure. Yeah, he released
he had no say after it.
Creative title to it, creative license to it. Yeah. So that makes me wonder if Yoshi P is kind of doing the same thing here for Yellow Brick Games. If he's written the lore, the history of the world, and just given it to them to say, "Hey, here you go, do what you want with it," or if he's taking a more active role the way Hideo Kojima did and is actually involved in the development. But they haven't clarified. The game still, I don't think there's a release date. I think it's no, it is dated January 28th. Excuse me, this game's around the corner.
Okay.
Yeah. This game's coming out next month. What's interesting though is Yoshi P. Is kind of his bread and butter is kind of RPGs, right?
Yes.
So Eternal Strands isn't labeled as an RPG. It's an action adventure game with some RPG aspects to it. It's not an RPG. So it's interesting to see such a prolific RPG director, head, whatever you want to call him, a visionary, step kind of out and do something different, which makes me kind of lean towards, well, did he write the lore for this world instead? But is he even a writer? Like, I don't know what he did at Final Fantasy 14 other than basically save the fucking game, right? Like,
he's the creative director, so he has ultimate say, but
right.
Obviously he's got people underneath him that make decisions as well. But like he kind of guides. He's like the puppet master for 14.
Right. So like, did he write any part of the story when he was coming up with the idea of the rebirth? Like, what? That's what I mean, though, is like, where is his expertise, I guess, in the game development side? So I'm curious to find out more about his involvement in this game. I'm still super looking forward to this game. I think it looks graphically beautiful. What's interesting now looking at this, it looks a lot like Dragon Age Veilguard, but it looks like it feels better than Dragon Age Veilguard because this is a unique new world. It's not an established IP that you've butchered. It has like that perfect blend, in my opinion, of like realism mixed with that cell shading art style that you want to see in the more like lighthearted games. I don't know. I'm stoked for this game.
The one I compared it to before the podcast started was Phoenix Rising by Ubisoft. Yeah. And it definitely has that cartoonish, stylized look to it. And it's a single player game, or at least it appears to be anyway.
Yes, it is.
I'm pretty certain that's the case, yeah. And so they can kind of just go nuts with it. They don't have to worry about, servers or all that other bullshit involved. They can just make a good, solid game. Yeah. And it looks like that's what they've gone with. And they've kind of, gone nuts when you look at the trailer. They just kind of let their creative juices flow. And with the amount of talent behind the game, it looks like it very well could be something quite special. Yeah. Honestly.
So just to kind of touch on their team, I'm pulling up their website now, trying to see if I can get names and like resumes or anything like that. Okay, no, they just have a bunch of quotes and things. Okay, can't get like previous work experience. So I'm kind of curious who makes up Yellow Brick Games outside of what they're saying, which is ex-BioWare devs and things of that nature. But it's they were voted best workplace or best places to work in 2022 and 2023 in Canada, because apparently they're based out of Canada. So I don't know.
What is it with Canada that makes some of the better games in the world?
It's a good question. I mean, Montreal with Assassin's Creed, the foundation there,
and Mass Effect, and so on and so forth.
Uh-huh.
So I found an article that doesn't really clarify much, but it does kind of give you maybe a potential idea of how Naoki Yoshida and his team worked with this. Okay. It says the development of what's Yellow Brick Games?
Yellow Brick Games.
Yeah. Yellow Brick Games says they've had the opportunity to create an original fantasy IP and then have the chance to work with the Creative Studio 3 team to further enrich it with all new content. And so it sounds like they also helped with content creation, obviously. I mean, that's basically exactly what I just read. And so I don't know exactly what that means. For all we know, that's new worlds, new monsters. I mean, it could be something as tiny as, they put a tree over there. Obviously, it's going to be more than that. That's my point is it really could be anything, but it is in the content department, not necessarily story. Although I would imagine if the content is big enough to have story, they help with that too. But yeah, it still begs the question: how the hell did they get away with this? Is Square Enix going to be like in the credits, the honorable mentions or something?
It's a good question. Their team page is actually pretty good. I've been kind of like hovering over their team, I guess, individual teams, and gives you like their job title and then a quote. Some of these guys have a good sense of humor. One guy references, he's the technical art director. He makes a reference to the dude from The Big Lebowski. Nice. He literally says, nice. Yeah, well, man, that's just kind of like your opinion. Your opinion. The art director has a great quote here. I love this. I love the sense of humor these guys have. This guy's like, are your environments looking dull and flat? Dude, God rays. Bam! 95 on Metacritic. So these guys have a sense of humor. I think it's really great. Yeah. I'm honestly excited for this project. I think it'll be really cool, personally. So
yeah. So that same article, I keyword searched it because it's actually kind of long. I keyword searched it, and it actually states here that Yellow Brick Studios has also revealed a partnership with Square Enix's Creative Studio 3 for some free post-launch content.
Nice.
So I guess they're helping with DLC. That's more specific. So the base game looks like it's not involved with Square Enix or Yoshi P at all. But Yoshi P is helping, or for all we know, making some of the DLC.
Maybe they're doing crossover events of some sort with 14, or who knows? I know those are things people love. So
bring on fucking what's his name, Raubon. Hell yeah! Bring on the kid. Bring on the guy from 14 that goes. Bring that guy. Sorry, that's a very specific reference.
What's the really fucking annoying guy's name? That has like the incredibly long quest. He's the guy who wears the suit. What's it?
Annoying? No, he's hilarious.
He's annoying as I hate that.
Funny he might as well be so stupid.
He might as well be a Johnny Bravo. Yes, he might as well be Johnny Bravo, dude. Oh my god.
But that's why he's fucking hilarious. I mean, come on, his dad naked practically chases him down. It's hilarious. The Manderville quest line is the best.
If you say so. This shit was ridiculous.
Yes, that's the point.
Well, the Eternal Strands comes out on the 28th of February. January. God damn, having a stroke over here.
You almost said July.
Yeah, I did. I was just look, man. Words are hard sometimes.
Yep.
Speaking of hard things, though, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is making something hard. Question mark?
The reason we do this podcast together.
So they've announced at a recent Most Wanted PC game show that happened earlier in the week, they announced their upcoming projects, which is multiple. They announced Prologue, which is a survival game that is going to be very interesting to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's going to be a good game. It's interesting. I don't know if it's going to be a good game.
I would also warn you that I'd be willing to bet the vast majority of what they've shown is like highly subject to change.
Oh yes, 100%. So this game is scheduled to hit early access in I think first half of next year. Oh god, when is it? Close tech demo. Launch early access on Steam next year. I don't know exactly when. I don't know if I have it pulled up. Let me look real quick. Prologue. I don't have it here. Stand by. I think I have this somewhere. Give me what I want. I don't have it. Okay. It's going to launch in early access sometime next year. I believe it was at the beginning of the year. Could be completely wrong. Don't quote me on that. I was looking at a lot of games. It says Q2 of 2025. So there you go. I just saw that after looking for it for way too long.
That's what, like April to June?
Yeah, somewhere in there. So Prologue is a single-player survival game that they're using an in-house built engine that is technically UE5, but a very tweaked UE5, which is interesting, that they're using machine learning to build basically randomly generated world-sized maps. They're calling this software, what was this? This was, where was the name of this? Oh, it's Preface. Undiscovered World is the name of the engine that they've built for this game, Prologue, right? And that engine has a downloadable tech demo, I guess, that you can get right now on Steam if you want to go take a look at it. Don't really pay attention to the reviews because people have reviewed it like it's a game. It's an engine. Yeah. The reviews are stupid. People have said it plays like a game from 2014 that was a indie game that was just garbage open. It's an engine. It's not a game. Just
it's a tech demo for technology, yes. Not a game.
It's a technical demo for a game engine. It's not a game. Okay, clear. All right, so they're using that engine, and what that does is basically it creates a scalable world-size map which is generates the world from outer space, from what they say. Then it generates, mountains and valleys and stuff like that, then hills and this and that and the other. The scope of this game is very interesting because they've got another project. They're kind of doing multiple projects right now, gearing up towards their magnum opus, I guess you could say, which is Project Artemis, which we know very little about, other than that they've broken Project Artemis out into 3 different games that they're working on to make those in a way that allows them to make Artemis the way that Artemis needs to be made. It's a very interesting approach to game design. They're basically testing, from what I can understand, testing the core components of what will make up Artemis in 3 different games to get them right, is if I understand the scope of what they're doing correctly, which I don't know that anybody's ever done that before. Most people just make the game they're going to release and then make that game. You know what I mean?
Yep. So
it's an interesting philosophy towards building a singular game by building 3 other games or engines or software to get there. But the gameplay loop initially for Prologue is going to be a very simple, you start at point A on this map and you have to get to point B on this map, and it's survival. And they're trying to make it more than just, they are making it more than just, it's rainy and wet, you get cold, you need food, you need shelter, blah, 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 blah. They're talking about massive weather changes where rivers will rise and fall based on how hot or how much rain or how much snow. There's no real indication as to how, there is an indication. They say that their maps are going to be 8 by 8 kilometers, so they're going to be freaking huge.
Pretty darn big, yeah.
But there's no indication as to what else is going to be there right now. This is still pretty in early development. They're using real world pictures with AI to build this through machine learning, and it looks pretty interesting. It's important to note, though, however, they started this project before, like 3 or 4 years ago, I think is what they said in the video that's on screen right now. They started this project 3 or 4 years ago, before AI was kind of at the point where it's at now, where these tools kind of now exist. They were building this tool, and now those tools exist. It's really interesting. But the idea here is that every time you start the game, if you die, it's permadeath. You start over, completely different world. So it kind of has a roguelite kind of style to it, where permadeath, new map every time. Which
so strange. 8 kilometer map, but permadeath. So you might explore 10 feet of it and die. Yep. Good luck. Start over.
Yep. New map too, all that's gone, start over. 100%.
Exactly.
So it's really interesting. I know from firsthand experience that UE5 has a world partition system that allows you to make pretty amazingly large maps, but then you have to actually build the maps. So what I can assume they've done here is paired that system with AI to automatically generate that, and then that stuff doesn't really exist until you hit some arbitrary metric to generate it, so to speak.
So basically No Man's Sky.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, definitely.
Basically, they figured out No Man's Sky's algorithm. They must have reverse engineered it.
I don't know that that's it. I don't think it's quite the same as No Man's Sky, but it definitely feels like it could have been inspired by it. I don't think they.
It's clearly far more realistic, and they've tailored it to fit what they need. And I doubt that they reverse engineered theirs. They just basically built something that's similar for their own purposes.
Right. So graphically right now, it doesn't look very impressive from the video I've seen. It looks very bare bones, but most of that is lighting, global illumination and things like that will make it look better. But it's an interesting project. I'm curious to see where it goes. For PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, PUBG, this is the developers of PUBG are doing something very un-PUBG, which is kind of cool. I love it when companies kind of branch out and do something different. Last week, we talked about Mortal Kombat, how cool it would be for them to go a different direction and make a beat-em-up kind of game or an RPG or, anything like that, So, their goal is to do something a little bit different. And this was all.
I mean, to be fair, PUBG was pretty different.
It was, right? Like PUBG was kind of the launch of the battle royales. Like at that time, Fortnite was still a tower defense game.
Exactly.
So PUBG kind of popularized the battle royale genre. And honestly, I don't think it existed before PUBG. I'm trying to think of a battle royale game before PUBG.
It was originally a mod in Arma, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and so before that, I mean, there probably was some small idea, and they expanded upon it or something. That'd be my best guess. I haven't really looked into it, but I know PUBG was the first real battle royale that especially got popular. But
yeah. So
I don't really think there was one before it either.
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds was the first game that was a battle royale. The mod existed before that, and there were mods for Minecraft that did the same. But PUBG was the very first officially launched battle royale game. So they created this genre not created, but like popularized, right? Like it.
Yeah. It seems like they're trying to do something big as well. Again, maybe not the same. Definitely not the same.
Yeah. but
they're trying to do something that's totally out there.
Yeah. And again, this is all building up to a project that they say currently is probably 5 to 10 years out, which is this Project Artemis, which is supposed to be this massive multiplayer sandbox, which is the ultimate goal of PlayerUnknown Productions. That's all we know about this Project Artemis, is that it's going to be a massive multiplayer game. What that's going to look like, who knows? It could be anything. If they're testing survival aspects, I think it's safe to say there's probably going to be some survival crafting building aspect to the game. What form is that going to take? Is it going to be like every other survival crafting game? Is it going to be more like Stalker? Is it going to be more like Fallout? It's who knows. So I think what the takeaway here is that the team is using Unreal Engine 5, but also building Unreal Engine 5 to be their own in-house engine, which is really cool that you can do that. So
I mean, that's always been the case with engines.
Yeah,
especially when you can license out like Unreal. You basically take the base engine and then you customize it to fit your needs.
Yeah, it's
very common.
Yeah, the fact that they're doing it to this scale, though, to like this, I don't know, degree, is very interesting to me. I guess they started out on Unity and they migrated to UE5 probably as a result of Unity's insane ideas that they had a while ago about like, well, I think Mike and I talked about it on an episode when you weren't there, talked about their new terms of service or whatever, where they wanted to charge per download or whatever the hell it was. They've reneged on that since, but yeah. Yep.
I mean, I think they probably just moved over to Unreal because it's just better tech. I mean,
maybe,
you have such massive company like Epic behind their engine, and they're constantly updating it and improving it. While you have, don't get me wrong, Unity's not nobody, but by comparison, it's like we were talking earlier with AMD and NVIDIA. Like, it's that kind of major difference. But when it comes to software, it's kind of hard to compare the two.
Yeah. Speaking of Epic, real quick, I want to diverge here just a little bit. Arcane, fantastic show if you haven't seen it. I'm not a League of Legends fan, but the show is incredible. Hats off to those guys. It's an incredible show. If you're at all interested in that, it's really cool. So kind of what they have on their Steam page here, getting back to Prologue, it sounds pretty simple. And honestly, I'm interested enough that I would check it out. Their gameplay loop is basically prepare, use your environment and the tools you have and the tools you find to your advantage, then travel, traverse the vast open world in search of food and shelter, take shelter, shield yourself from extreme weather conditions affecting your stats, don't stay too long, take cover, sleep, eat, move on to the next spot, fix, repair items and buildings as you find on your way, make stuff stronger. I don't know if they have any idea of putting like wildlife in here that's going to hunt you, bears, wolves, moose, whatever, and escape. Your ultimate goal is to reach the weather station and call for help. So it feels kind of like
extraction survival.
Yeah, the Long Dark comes to mind. I talked about that before we started the podcast. The Long Dark or Firewatch, they're quote unquote walking sims, as people like to call them. Yeah. I don't think this one's going to be narrative driven the way those were. I think this is going to be, again, I almost hesitate to call it a game because they said that this is being used to inform how to make Artemis better. So it almost feels like this itself is going to be a tech demo, but they're building it into a game. So I'm curious to see what that ends up being. I don't know.
Yeah, I had a thought earlier, and I don't think I've voiced this to anyone, but I have a feeling that this is sort of their way of basically. There's probably an EULA in there somewhere that it says whatever you do within this game, if you create stuff, if you modify things, whatever, basically they're gonna go, that's mine now, and they might very well implement your stuff in the game, whatever it may be. I don't know what sort of building this game has, if it has any for that matter, but I have a feeling that that's probably involved in there, especially because it's a heavily AI produced piece of software.
Yeah. I don't know. They don't specifically call out building so much as they do repairing, finding shelter, that kind of stuff. I imagine crafting aspects will be added at some point, but it's hard to say. We don't have that information at this time. But that is what we know about what PlayerUnknown's Productions is working on. So with that, we're going to jump into our quickfire news, and right off the top, I'm going to go ahead and say GOG, we need more companies like them. So recently, Blizzard basically told GOG to delist Warcraft 1 and 2 right after dropping their 1 and 2 bundle remaster deal that they're selling. GOG basically turned around and said, no, fuck you. So what they've done is issued a discount code to anybody who wants to buy the DRM free version of Warcraft 1 and 2 in their original form on GOG. There's a discount code available until the 13th for that on their website. Discount code is Make Warcraft Live Forever. Capitals on all the first letters, no spaces. Knocks off $2 or $1 or £1.50 if you're in England. And it lets you get the Warcraft 1 and 2 bundle. In addition to that, there are a couple of tweaks that they've made to those games so they run better on current software. Or current systems, so that's great. But yeah, Blizzard basically said, hey, delist these because we're trying to sell our new one, which is $30 as opposed to this, or excuse me, $40 as opposed to this $15 one. And GOG said no. It honestly
makes me wonder about the legality of that. Like, how does that work? How can they just go, no?
Well, so they're still going to delist it. From what I've read, they're still going to delist it. It goes, once the game is gone, they will continue to support it, especially since it's in their games preservation program. They actually just recently added it right before Blizzard said no. So they're going to continue to support the game for anybody that buys it through them, but they won't be able to continue to sell the game once it's delisted in December, later this month, whenever.
There's the legal stuff.
Yeah, there is legalities there, but they will continue to support it in perpetuity, which is really interesting because that makes me wonder, like, what happens if we get a massive technical leap and like computer processing changes so drastically, because it's already different than it was, back then. I don't know. Their game preservations, we talked about it in an earlier episode. I think it was maybe 3 ago.
Something like that.
It's an interesting idea. GOG is trying to save games from the past, and I support that 100%. Blizzard is trying to be money grubby, which isn't great. They want you to buy their new stuff and basically are trying to throw the old stuff in a fire. That is what Blizzard's doing and what GOG is doing in response. And then another quick topic before, Tim, you jump in here. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered are revitalizing lost levels that were cut from the original versions of the game, as well as other bonus material like soundtrack, maps, lore, other stuff that was cut from the original game will be included in the remastered of 1 and 2. So if you haven't bought this game yet and you're interested, it's a good time to do it. Buy it now. It's $30. Get it. Comes out in 3 days. Definitely. All right. Tim, what else you got for us?
It'll be glorious. Okay, so the first bit of news is something that we mentioned back in episode 71, but basically just after Ubisoft announced the shutting down of their shooter, maybe not hero shooter. I honestly don't know a lot about X Defiant other than the fact that it's supposed to be like a cross of all of their things. But they're shutting down X Defiant, and they laid off a shit ton of staff. it's heavily reported that their shareholders are trying to figure out how to sell the company, more or less. Not out from under the Guillermo family, which they've notoriously said, we want to be independent, we don't want to sell, we want to control the company. So they're trying to make it to where they can sell the company, but the Guillermo family can stay in control of the company. And I don't know if that... IGN states that they're trying to sell it to Tencent, but who knows? It's kind of big. Ubisoft or the Guillermo family has been very, very against selling. So the only thing I can think of is basically parent company would change and nothing else would change, which would sort of kind of not really change anything. I don't know. It's weird. I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, there was rumors that Sony was looking at buying them, and Sony does have the market cap to do so. So does obviously many other companies. Tencent's probably the most likely one here. But in any case, moving on, the PlayStation 30th anniversary that happened just the other day was kind of a bust, sadly. There really wasn't a lot shown. And when I mean like not a lot shown, I mean almost nothing. They gave us themes on the PlayStation PS5. They give us themes that are dedicated to PS1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can change the themes on the PlayStation, so when you turn it on, it sounds like that platform, which is cool. It's fucking super cool. I can turn my PS5 on, and it sounds like a PlayStation 1, and it's nostalgic as fuck, and I love it. but PlayStation made them temporary. They haven't said when they're going to go away. Yeah, they haven't said when they're going to go away, but they're apparently going away. Super fucking dumb. A lot of chat online is people begging for Sony not to take them away.
Why would you? I don't understand. I don't understand temporary digital content. I can't. Yeah. I physically. Fucking Nintendo did that with Super Mario Sunshine.
PlayStation, yeah. What? No, the Super Mario All Stars or the whatever. The 30th anniversary All Stars. Yeah.
I thought it was Super Mario Sunshine too. Didn't they do
it
like
wasn't just Sunshine. It was the Super Mario collection thing that they released.
I just remember Super Mario Sunshine was involved in it. It's digital. The code exists. Why take it away at all? Ever?
I can understand getting rid of the physical version.
Yeah.
But delisting the digital too? Dumb as shit.
Like, is there some legality there? Like, I can't. And especially with Sony, there can't be any legality on the sounds that they own.
Their own
right? Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Weird.
Like, why? It's a startup screen with noises.
Right?
Why take that away from me? They spent the time developing it, and they're like, here, you can have it for 5 seconds.
Is it free? It's free, right?
Yes.
What the?
Yes. You turn the system on, and it even like has a big old update that's like, by the way, we have these now, but only for a little bit.
What the fuck is the point of that?
I don't know. Like I said, they're cool. They even changed the background to so like if you choose the PlayStation 2 background, you remember the towers of the PlayStation 2?
Yeah.
Fun fact about those towers actually got taller the more you played because those were directly tied to your save files. Yep. So the more you played your games, those towers actually got taller, which was really cool. But in any case, that's one for the PS2 and so on and so forth for 3 and 4. But yeah, they take them away from you. It's dumb. I don't know. I don't know when they're going away. For all I know, they're not going to go away for 3 years. But I doubt it. They announced some other cool stuff as well. There's like competitions with the PlayStation Stars and so on and so forth, where you can try to earn some stuff. But like ultimately, it's like you guys didn't announce a single video game, and people were like desperate for some kind of showcase. I mean, something, anything, any sort of game announcements.
VGAs is around the corner. If they don't come out in force and show some shit, bro, like they keep saying we've got so many games in development. Shut up. They need to take a page out of Nintendo's book on this one and shut the fuck up until you have something to show.
Yeah,
I'm so sick of it.
In 2022, they did skip a showcase. They've had a PlayStation showcase, which is one of their big showcases. Where they actually have lots of announcements. They did skip one in 2022, and so maybe they're skipping this. Not maybe they're clearly skipping this year, unless one pops out of fucking nowhere. Apparently, every year that they've had a showcase, they've announced it 7 days early, and so they don't have a lot of time for that this year. So they're skipping this year, is what I'm saying. Is what my guess is. and they're going to leverage things like the
VGS, yeah. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like you're cutting your cost in favor of a known event that millions of people tune into. So that makes sense, right? But at the same time, like, dude, at this point, I'm like, why did they even fucking bother to tell us they were making KOTOR? 6 years. Right. Why'd you even bother to say?
That's not them. That's all
yeah, but Sony's funding it. I mean, Sony's paying for it. So I don't know.
I mean, they obviously had more hope for it at that point. It's not their fault that shit hit the fan.
Yeah. I'm just bitter.
The 30th anniversary was a bust for me too.
That's a damn shame.
People that were hoping for something, and I was hoping for something too.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's still the VGAs. But at this point, I mean, like we've been talking about it since the podcast restarted.
Yeah.
And they haven't given us nothing really but like trickle feeding, small things here and there. Some of them have been good, but they've been trickle feeding instead of giving me like shit to look forward to.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Other than saying we've got shit for you to look forward to. Well, what is it?
Right? What is it? Other than that, give me something, damn it. Show me Jak and Daxter remake, please.
Fuck yes.
Please.
Fuck yes.
I'd be all over it.
Last of Us was supposed to be
Jak and Daxter,
which is...
I don't mean remaster. I mean a remake.
The Last of Us.
Full on.
It's still my favorite fucking gaming fact is still that Jak and Daxter was supposed to be Last of Us. Like, how the fuck? Yeah. What were you guys doing? Where you're like, we're gonna make the next Jak and Daxter. Oh wait, this is The Last of Us. What the fuck were you making?
Right. Well, keeping along that speculation train, the rumors are pointing that Steam is apparently entering the console race
again,
which they've been sort of they've been dabbling in it, half-heartedly with the Steam Link and various other things with the Steam OS and such. I mean, the Steam Deck came out; it's been wildly successful, but supposedly they're coming out with a full-on console now. Microsoft, I guess, basically was like, we're kind of done, kind of not. So Steam decided and said, fuck it, throw your hand in the pocket.
Well, so they did in the past. I don't know if you realize that. The Steam console did exist in the past. It was built by Alienware. The one in the image of the article I shared was the original Steam box. They actually made it, and it was a commercial flop.
Well, it was a PC though. The intent with that was it was the Steam OS, where basically they said, if you want to make a computer based on this, so not quite a console.
So they released the Steam OS.
They did have a console version of, or not console version, they had console OS as well as PC OS.
Well, they released Steam OS after the failure of their console. They worked with Alienware to make the Steam console, and then when the console failed, they released the OS for people to have to make their own quote unquote consoles. So yes, it was, the reason it failed is it was basically just a PC with Steam OS. So like it was like, well,
and there was no direction. It was like, do what you want with this.
So like with what we've seen with the Steam Deck, we could see a pretty cool piece of tech.
If Steam makes it and it's proprietary, and
Valve,
they make it. Valve, Steam, same thing. Synonymous.
I mean, yes, definitely.
Yeah. And it'd be interesting to see. We definitely need more competition in the console market, given the fact that, considering like AMD, Nintendo doesn't compete with their competitors, even though they do, and Nintendo Xbox is jumping.
You smelling toast over there, dude?
Yes, Xbox is seemingly jumping out, even though they're saying two different things, and Sony is really the only one in the hardware space that's doing their best to try and be like cutting edge. It would be nice to have another competitor, like real competitor. Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Speaking of competitors, not competitors, competitive games. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is getting a 7-day free trial starting Friday, December 13th. So if you want to give the game a shot, you can do so coming Friday, which is 2 days after this goes live for all the peoples. PlayStation VR 2 just got an SDK update, which means this is only for developers. But basically, the developers can add full hand tracking to their games, like literally no controllers required. The camera just picks up your hand movements. So, like, to me, I'm getting Kinect vibes from it.
So go ahead.
No,
okay. The Quest has had that for a while. I think the Quest 2 they implemented that. I have noticed that whether it's supported or not is a software choice, not necessarily a hardware choice. So like, for example,
the developer.
Right. Yeah. So like the tech will be there. It's up for the person creating the actual software to take advantage of it, because I actually tried to see if I could do a controllerless supernatural boxing, and that does not take advantage of the hand tracking, unfortunately, which is very disappointing, because it'd be much more natural to use just your fists than to be holding controllers in it too. But I don't know what games do, track just hands. I imagine some do, but with Sony throwing their hat in the ring for that, it makes me wonder if they're going to push their developers, because it's their proprietary tech. Are they going to push their developers to add that feature to their existing software, or just make it an option for them to choose moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is there's only so much you can do with no buttons or joysticks or anything like that. So we'll see.
Yes and no. Honestly, the VR space of just the Oculus Quest, like using just a web browser in the Oculus Quest or in MetaQuest, whatever the hell you call it, is actually pretty intuitive for just hands, like typing, grabbing stuff, moving things around. It actually feels really good. But yeah, like when it comes to gaming, I don't know how that would translate.
That's what I'm referring to, the gaming side of things. Yeah, when it comes to like using a computer and stuff, sure, you can do all sorts of stuff with motion controls, but I guess we'll see. I mean, it's up to the developers, like you said, and from what this article that I read says, it's entirely in the developers' hands if they want to implement, fully on motion tracking stuff. And there was actually a video shown with some guy playing what looked like some sort of magic game, where he was like a mage that was throwing off fireballs and protecting himself in various ways. It looks kind of cool, but we'll see if anything ever comes to fruition. Project Mugen, which was announced, this was the one that I conflated the other title with earlier.
Gotcha.
It was announced August 2023. It has been officially named as Ananta. Basically, it is another Genshin Impact-like, but it's got the Spider-Man traversal system, which is interesting. And it seems to have very much of a GTA gameplay style. Because there's cars and guns and all sorts of other stuff involved. It's a Genshin Impact like game. It's going to of course release for mobile, PlayStation 5, and PC, and it actually looks pretty damn good. Like it looks like a really high budget Genshin Impact like. But just the fact that Spider-Man meets GTA, like that sounds interesting to me. I'm definitely.
You know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
You remember Prototype?
I knew you were going to say that. Yes, that's fair.
Yeah, it felt as soon as you said GTA and Spider-Man, I was like, oh, Prototype. Okay, yeah.
Prototype was great.
It was a great game. It was a fantastic game.
Yeah, or at least just remaster them or something.
That'd be great. They were fun.
So, I said this already, kind of, not intentionally, but the whole Ubisoft, their XDefiant game is being discontinued in 2025, and as our editor said, it's almost like they shut down the wrong game. Instead of shutting down the
Division Heartland,
they should have shut down XDefiant.
Yep.
Moving on. The barf moment of the week, or news of the week.
Oh shit!
Gamers spend more time watching games than they do playing them.
I got to be honest. I feel personally attacked.
I mean, we definitely spend a lot of time watching games, given our podcast and such.
Well,
but go ahead.
With the kid, man, it's so much easier to just sit down and watch somebody playing and be able to just walk away and pause than it is to like get into a game, get engrossed in something, and then be like, oh shit, kid needs something. Pause, run off, come back, sit down, pause, right? Like it. I think it has something to do with the endorphin release of like gaming. Like you don't want it to end, so it's every time you're sucked out of it, it's almost harder to get back into it.
Yeah, I also imagine it's rather skewed in the sense of there's people that actually aren't gamers themselves.
Yeah.
So like they're just watching content, but they're not actually. If they weren't watching the content, they would never play it. and so there's probably a lot of that in there too. So
it's potential.
Probably not quite. That's my guess anyway,
Yeah.
because I mean, gaming has been the
Largest
biggest
media.
entertainment industry for quite a while now.
Yeah.
So there's got to be people that watch it that don't play, you know. Yeah, but anyways.
I mean, I think there's, I mean, I can speak just personally knowing somebody. He plays some video games, but most of the time he's my dungeon master, right? Like his main hobby is D&D. So that's where he devotes all of his creative energies, all of his time, and it shows. He does an amazing job. But like occasionally we'll go over and they'll just be watching a streamer playing a video game. They're not necessarily playing, and they play very rarely because, you know, he's building his own custom world and everything that goes along with that. So they're not necessarily gamers, quote unquote, but they're watching that content, right?
Them.
Yeah. And I think that's, I don't know. I know it's honestly, it's the new football is really all it is. It's like you can't play it, so you might as well watch it. So you're at least getting that secondhand fun out of it. You know what I mean?
I mean, PlayStation has even sort of been making the joke since the PlayStation 3 era with Uncharted that, you know, you can play the games or you can watch the games and it feels like you're watching a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So it makes sense.
I mean, I know my wife loved watching me play Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like she loved watching that game. So
because they're so good.
So good. I can't wait to play Rebirth when it finally comes to PC at some point in the future.
It will be 100% worth it.
Hopefully many months from now, because I've got a backlog the size of next year already.
Right. There's all
oh god, dude. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about how much my wallet's gonna hurt.
Well, speaking of next year,
ooh, look at that.
The Croc remaster that was announced for this year has been delayed in 2025. So your 2025 backlog just gets bigger.
Damn it.
I don't have a good transition for this one. So Concord released earlier this year, and it was a massive fucking flop. And actually, the past several years has just been terrible for hero shooters.
I wonder why.
Pretty much all of them have released to shit reviews and shit players, and they've been either canceled or just, you know, ignored, basically, even by the developers. Except for Marvel Rivals, the new Tencent, I believe it's Tencent anyway, Marvel hero shooter. It's actually a gigantic, like massive, huge fucking success. Over 450,000 concurrent players right now. I looked this up just before the podcast started, and they are hitting record numbers. I mean, they only launched yesterday, and give them fair. To be fair, so obviously they're going to hit a record number on Saturday versus Friday. But in any case,
it's NetEase, and we talked about them when NetEase. They got the guys embezzling billions of dollars. Yeah. Either
way, they've obviously managed to make something good. I have seen a fair amount of chatter on X about this, and people are basically saying that it's just Marvel without the bullshit involved. There's nothing extra thrown in there. It's Marvel, but a hero shooter, and it's good. It's just there you go.
You know what? It's free, right?
Yes.
You know what? I'm gonna download it right now.
I mean, why not?
And I'm gonna play it later tonight.
There you go.
I'm gonna check it out, and we're gonna see what it's all about.
See if it's worth it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do the same.
I mean, I don't like hero shooters, but I'm down to play some Spider-Mans.
Yeah, why
Spider-Mans or Wolverine. They need to add Deadpool. When they add Deadpool, I'm on this. Like, yeah. All right. I mean, I'll check it out. I take their numbers with a grain of salt, right? Because it is a free-to-play game. So of course people are going to download it and play it. So let's report back in like 2 weeks, maybe. Tell you what, let's report back after the first of the year and see what their player counts are at. Because that's when we're going to know whether or not this is a good game. Because it's free-to-play. Of course everybody's going to download it. I bet you Delta Force just launched. It's free-to-play. I bet you it's got a crazy amount of players on it right now.
You can't say that though. There have been other shooters and other games that even though not all of them have been free, some of them have been paid to play. But there have been other ones that have launched to just no players at all.
Yeah,
even
Concord.
The free-to-play ones. Concord was pay, but the demo also had no players. So
currently in game on Delta Force right now is 72,000 people, 72,500.
That's a pretty big difference.
Yeah,
although of course Marvel is bigger than Delta Force. Marvel is huge.
Their all-time peak was 108,000 though. So and that was in the last 24 hours. So,
which that also launched the last couple days, didn't it?
yeah, that launched the 4th, so 3 days ago.
Okay,
yeah,
a few days ago.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving on from slaying Marvel people to slaying demons.
Yeah.
Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. I think it's how you say that.
You did better than I would have.
Yeah, right. Basically, it's a Demon Slayer video game. They've announced a proper sequel. I don't know shit about it other than they've announced a sequel, and it makes me wonder. The first one had a Switch version come out. I say it that way because the Switch version was like a Mario Party board game. It was fucking weird, totally fucking different from the actual
version.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that it's a proper like adventure game rather than a fighting game. You know.
Not to derail too much, but speaking of Switch versions, the wife was browsing. That's how I'm going to say it from now on. was browsing the Nintendo eShop, and she's like, "Wait, Hogwarts Legacy is on Switch?" I was like, "Don't buy it! God. Don't buy it! Don't do it!" No, she looked at me. She's like, "It play fine on the Switch." I was like, "No, graphically, it can't handle it. It's not worth the $14.95 they're asking for on sale right now. Man. Do not buy it."
No. Buy it on Steam.
I bought it for Christmas on Steam. So yeah, it was very funny. She's like, "Wait, that's on Switch?" I was like, "Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. I will rebuy it for you on PlayStation before I let you buy it on Switch."
Right? Buy the last gen version on the PS4 and play that version.
Exactly.
Yes.
Switch version?
I mean, moving on.
Can we get the Switch 2, please? Can we just so we can stop making you the butt of the joke, Nintendo? Can you please just drop the Switch 2?
That was what I was going to say, but I decided to move on. Well, anyways, moving on away from versions to Xbox decided to release a phenomenal fucking exclusive, but they're also, releasing it on PlayStation, so there's no reason to buy it on Xbox, which is the general sentiment on X and social media. Indiana Jones is actually like super fucking good.
Awesome.
From
Glad
what
to
I
hear
can
that.
tell. Yeah, from what I can tell, everyone's like, this game is amazing. So the only thing that I can see about it that's not good, or at least not great, is the combat, which is something that I said that I was like, I'm totally not sold on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, in a first-person game, hand-to-hand combat is just not easy. If you don't have guns, or you don't have magic, or you don't have some sort of fantasy element to it, fist fighting is just weird in first person. It always has been. It always will be. And that, to my understanding, someone actually on X told me earlier today was that it's almost comedic, which I don't know if that's intentional or not.
I mean,
based on what I've seen, but in any case, like the way he was wording it was that yes, it's not great, but it's comedic, and therefore it's like kind of worth it. It's not bad, I guess. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's hand-to-hand combat. Like fighter games are phenomenal for that, right? Like the majority of what goes into a fighting game is developing the fight, right? So hand-to-hand combat, is very difficult, especially in first person. Like that is one, you've got to make it in a way that it's fun theoretically, but two, you've got to make it not make people sick, like a couple of our patrons. But it also like. It almost makes me wonder if they're trying to be too accurate to the source material. Go back and watch Indiana Jones.
I've got some thoughts on that.
Okay, but if you go back to the original Indiana Jones movies, the choreography was very 80s. It was not
released in the 80s.
Yeah, it's very a product of its time. So it almost makes me wonder if they're leaning into that. But I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so when you say leaning into that. The Digital Foundry video I watched on it for the tech explanation of the game. They're not talking about how good the game is or anything. They're just saying this is the tech breakdown of the game. They also were showing some of what the game is doing, and the first couple of hours of the game, they actually show you cutscenes. Obviously, there's a lot of story build up in this game because this is a retelling of the original movie. And when I tell you, it is scene for scene recreated. They actually had 2 windows in their video, one the movie, one the game, and they were exactly the same.
That's pretty cool.
Obviously the game was, computer graphics versus real people, but like, actually, one of the really cool things that was like, that's actually really awesome, is Troy Baker plays Indiana Jones in this.
I did not know that. That's
Obviously.
awesome.
Yeah. And bro, he sounds almost exactly like Harrison Ford, like almost exactly. It's a little off, but like if you weren't paying attention or you didn't have side by side comparison like the Digital Foundry does, you're like, damn, that's Harrison Ford, and he does a solid fucking job of it. But when I say scene for scene recreations, there's a couple times where in the movie, obviously, they're traversing or doing whatever they're doing, and you're actually playing it, but there's a lot of cutscenes or scenes in the movie that are cutscenes in the game, and they are exactly the same. So minimal difference. But from what I can tell, the game is totally awesome, and Xbox has a phenomenal exclusive on their hands, except for Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
And basically the sentiment is, well, sorry Xbox, you kind of fucked up. More or less.
741 reviews on Steam right now, all very positive. We're sitting at very positive. Not all very positive, but sitting at very positive.
Only 741?
It's not technically out yet. So to play it right now,
the early
it comes
access,
out tomorrow in 18 hours. It comes out. To play it in early access, you got to pay $100. But here's the thing, man. It's a $70 game, and I don't think there's a single game on this planet that I'm willing to pay $70 for the base version of the game. So it really doesn't matter how good it is. You know what? I take that back. There is one. Ash is a creation, because I'm going to pay $100 for that game.
I thought you were going to say Tenchu.
Tenchu as well. You know what? If they launch, fair enough. If they launch Tenchu 1 and 2 for $70, complete remake, yep, I'm forking it over. I'll pay $100. Well,
Legend of Dragon.
Well, yeah, that'd be another one, but that's, yeah.
I can keep naming games.
Shut up, you're breaking my wallet already. But $70 is a steep price tag for that one.
It is. It's crazy, too, because $60, like, it didn't really feel terrible.
No, but that jump another 10. Oof.
Yeah, like $50 was the golden price.
Yeah.
And when they dropped it, when they increased it to $60, we're like, fuck. But whatever.
Yeah.
You buy your game. But $70, there's just something feels wrong about it.
Agreed.
And I mean, there's few games that I've purchased at $70, and I would just half the time I'm just waiting for them to drop to $30 at this point. Why not? And I mean, hell, for Black Friday, I bought 3 games. No, I bought 2 games at $30, and then one at $20 and one at $10. So I spent $90 on 4 games for Black Friday. But anyways, it's there's something wrong with it, and I'm curious. Going back to Indiana Jones, is sure it's only available in early access, and you have to buy the what is it, like the Ultimate Edition?
Yeah, $100 version. I might have a guy.
$100 version.
I might have a guy for you. I'll get you in touch with my guy. All
right, sounds good to me. I think the game actually has de novo, so I don't think I have the choice.
I got a guy.
Yeah, anyway. So looking at the Steam numbers, it's only capped at 5,964 players. But again, this is early access and only for the people that spend a lot of money. Also, it's a Game Pass game, so most of the PC players will just get it for free.
Yeah.
But it is sitting at some really solid reviews. It's sitting at almost 90% positive reviews, 88.69%. So that's good. And again, from what I can tell, it looks great. And honestly, I'm definitely considering picking it up on PlayStation when it comes out next year. I mean, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I really like Indiana Jones as well.
Speaking of games on console, if you do plan on getting Stalker 2, I know you're hesitant on it, but if you ever do plan on getting it in the future, don't buy it on a console. Do not buy it on a console.
Yes.
There are not enough controls on a controller to play that game properly. Like, get it on PC.
I heard you say that.
Yeah, I don't remember if I said that on this one or the one Mike was on, so just reiterating.
All right, so I got a couple more.
Okay.
The former Sony boss, Sean Layden, more or less stated that given Xbox's hardware sales numbers, it's probably probably not worth it for Sony to bring their games to Xbox.
Yeah, probably not. I think that goes without saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why Xbox is doing it. Their numbers are so poor. Their hardware numbers are so poor. They have to find a way to make their sales numbers somewhere else. And obviously, Game Pass isn't growing fast enough for it to be worth it. So they have to release their games elsewhere, or otherwise go to business. And that's not what they want to do. So it makes sense. Why would you support the lowest end of the totem pole? Like, it just makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of time they'd have to do just in developing to release it, I'm sure it's just not worth coding it.
Yeah,
to do
the money and time spent, it probably wouldn't be worth it.
Right.
Basically. On a bit of positive news, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is releasing a week earlier than originally planned.
In a world full of delays, Warhorse
Right.
pushes a game forward. That's how you do it. Way to go, Toby. Proud of you.
Right. And a bit of confounding news. Fortnite is still somehow managing to break records. They hit 12 million players a couple years ago for some concert or something like that, and they just passed that by over 2 million players.
Jesus Christ!
3 million concurrent players were logged in just the other day.
14.3
million. Yes.
Hang on. 14.3. That is that is 5 million more people, roughly, than what live in all of LA County. That is everyone in LA County sitting on. Oh my God. That is big numbers. Wow.
Yeah. It's insane. They're still managing. I mean, it's a free to play game, but it's like a decade old at this point. Epic is something extremely special in their hands with this game, and they're obviously trying to expand it, like when they did with the Lego Fortnite and the racing game and various other stuff. I actually think they announced something somewhat recently for some other sort of collaboration too. But in any case, they're managing crazy ass numbers, and they're about to release, I don't remember exactly when, I think it's like next week or something. They're about to release Fortnite OG, like, you know how like a lot of games release like the original version. They're about to do that as well, and wouldn't be surprised if they break records again.
I mean, hats off to Riot for just, or that's not Riot, is it? No, that's not right.
Like,
that's
it's Epic Games.
Yeah, Epic's. Hats off to Epic for just really knowing what people want. Like, holy shit. Wow.
Yeah, their crossovers and everything else are top notch. Like, you really can't deny it. Even though I don't care for the game, you can't deny it. I mean,
yeah, it's not my cup of tea either, but good job.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally doing concerts for major artists.
Yeah.
That the only place you can attend this is on the game.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It gives you, pause for thought for like how prevalent is this going to be in the future. We're just going to attend concerts and video games. I mean, if there was the means to attend a concert via my PlayStation headset or my VR headset, that'd be cool.
I feel like there is. I feel like that's a thing that they've done or are working on.
About that in the past. Yeah, they've talked about it. I remember there's been a movie or two that's released that you can actually like experience the movie in the movie with your headset, and like that's cool. But there's so many possibilities. So I don't know.
So Live Nation has partnered with City and Next VR to broadcast concerts in VR. So yeah, you can watch concerts in VR. Good.
That should be more advertised.
Amaze VR is another one. They have done concerts that include Megan Three Stallions. Don't know who that is. Avenged
Megan
Sevenfold and T-Pain. So yeah, there's you can attend concerts in VR. That's pretty cool.
I wonder how much they cost.
Hopefully significantly less.
I would hope so. The last bit of information I have to talk about is the Genshin Impact like that has almost no combat. Infinity Nikki.
Okay.
It released on the 5th. It's oddly enough, it's like a dress up Genshin Impact like.
Yeah.
But definitely for girls. I've got my 8-year-old playing it, and she's like begging me to play it every day now. And when she went to bed, I decided to give it a shot. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before. And I played it for a couple of hours, and it doesn't have that like adrenaline pump to it, but it's got a really good loop to it as far as like exploration goes, because
Okay.
that's kind of the crux of the game, is
Sure.
for you to explore and just kind of figure out what's in the world. Like the story is basically like you get drawn into this random fantasy world, and the stylists, the people that create clothes and styles and whatnot, are somehow have some sort of magic power, and there's people that have been falling into comas, and you're supposed to help. It's a weird fucking story.
Weird, very weird.
Yeah, it's a strange story, but like I said, the actual gameplay loop is kind of fun. I actually saw a meme on X earlier where some dude, like super fucking jack dude, like not wearing a shirt, it said me playing Infinity Nikki. I was like, that's funny. It's actually not bad. It's free to play. It's on PlayStation and mobile and PC. It's got the crossover just like Genshin Impact and everything else does. It's probably not the vast majority of people's cup of tea, and I'll probably only play it just to play with my daughter ultimately. But
Sure.
it's surprisingly better than I had anticipated it to be. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, is that it for our news?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So before we wrap here, just another quick reminder: next week there will be no live show. Announced this multiple times. If you want more updates, information, if you want to come hang, come over to our Discord. Come over to our link tree at linktree.com/coindropbets. You'll find all of our links there. Discord links also on Twitter, Twitch, everywhere. Basically, you can find our Discord. Just look for the button. It's not hard. Patreon.com/coindroppod. That's where we're going to head over to next. Do some post-show stuff over there. Talk about some upcoming games that we curate for our audience over there. Include links in our description for those. You can also get that episode directly to you in an RSS feed if you have Spotify. So you never have to go to the Patreon. You just have to link those two accounts, and it comes straight to you every week. So our Patreon's $3 a month. Not a whole lot. You get that 4 times a month. We talk about games that catch our attention. Tell you a little bit about them. Give you links to Steam or wherever you can purchase them, tell you when they come out, and it's always for the week that you're listening. So it's always the games that are right around the corner. It's a lot of fun to kind of check those out. Tonight we're going to be talking about a developer at Half-Life that fixed lighting so good he told graphics card manufacturers they had to fix it, and the response was, "We hate you." So we're going to talk about that story from a very long time ago, which just came to light recently, and we're going to talk about that over there. Yeah, I don't think I really have anything else. We're going to play, or at least I'm going to play, Marvel Rivals over on the Discord after the Patreon side. So if you want to come hang, check out Marvel Rivals with us. I'll be there. Tim, are you going to be there? You going to bed? I know you said you were tired.
I got it downloading now. We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Tim's a tentative maybe. Yes, possibly. So, Tim, take us out, sir.
Tell your mom I said hi.
And for me, tell her I said a welcome hello. Have a great night, everyone.